Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining today's session, TAM Lab number 110, automating your Horizon deployment from start to finish. And so this is presented today by Joey Ware, one of our senior TAMs here. So I know we're all really excited about it. So Joey, here you go.
Thank you so much, Bill. Yeah. Just so everyone knows, this is all in my home lab. It's not perfect. I'm going to share my screen real quick, and it's going to start off with a video. In my home lab environment, let's go ahead and get this going. Share screen. And do that one. Okay, you should be able to see this video here in a second. So in my home lab, I have two connection servers. One's the primary, one is what they call the Replica server. And then I have two UAGs, one's external, one's internal. I'm trying to kind of mimic some of my customer environments as best as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and start this video just so I can show it, because the reason I had to kind of record this is I'm starting from cloning my server 2019 image, and that takes like 20 minutes. So I'm going to go through it. So what I'm doing here is showing you both of my CSO1, CSO2, my UAG external 01, UAG internal 01. Just now I'm going to kind of go into it and just show that this was working beforehand. So CSO1 admin page. For those who have not ever been into a Horizon environment, this is what you'll see as an admin. This is hopefully it goes a little faster though. And if I ever start cutting off on sound, please let me know, Bill, and everyone else, because as I told Bill, we're good.
Yep, so far so good.
Okay. So far, my internet's doing fine. I think everyone else is at work in my neighborhood, so I'm going to have all the bandwidth. So right here, I'm logged in my admin page. It's fully set up. And in this case, I only have my Windows 10 jump box that I get into, which is a manual pool. And then I'm going to click on the servers. So there's my vCenter. I have no gateway set up this way. That gateway is only the UAGs for monitoring. And then I've got the one connection server at that point, and we're going to go through why I only have that one. And then the instant clone domain account, and then the connection server connected to that domain, right? So I'll show you how we're going to set all this up. You don't have to blink on that license key, Bill, because it's only got the few numbers there. But I'm going to show you how we can automate this whole process, and even down to the actual cert. This is one thing I hate with a passion. So I'm like, I want to automate this whole process, because in my home lab, I will spin up and spin down my 3 Intel NUCs, which is basically Horizon and anything related to it, and tear it up and tear it down anytime I need to, especially if I have a hard drive failure. So let's see if I go in here. So I'm going to actually just show you, I'm going to just delete these. And then we're going to switch over to my actual live environment, and hopefully I don't need this video any longer. But yeah, I'm going to delete everything except for that template I forgot to take out of there. We'll see it in a minute. The only thing I have running right now is the UAGs, but I'm really going to show you how we can upgrade those as well. Since I only have one, I don't need a QS or anything like that. I don't need to kill off any sessions. I'm just going to power them off and then show you how you deploy a new one with the existing config. So what I'm doing there is just making sure. I'm like, oh wait, I forgot that template's in there. Only 2 of the hosts or 2 of the VMs are showing powered on or powered off. So I'm just going through and making sure I'm powering them all off. All right, delete. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to pause this. I'm going to share my actual RDP screen that I'm using, because my jump box is the VDI, right? So I can't use it right now.
Right. So real quick, there's a question in chat, and maybe we'll get to it. Are you automating the Sql deployment as well for the Horizon database?
That's going to be one of those I'm going to have to do like a follow-up for.
Got it. Okay.
Because I am not going to show you how to do the actual event database. In most cases, that should already be created if you have a SQL server, right? I need to go through in PowerShell like how to do all that. So that is the only thing I'm not going to show today. Okay. I don't see the little green box or whatever around this window. Are you guys seeing my RDP screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we had a meeting just beforehand. So what I did is I actually recreated my CSO1, CSO2 off of my script. Now this is my PowerShell script. This does everything for me. So I put this in here just so I can start fresh every time. I actually created a start time so I know how long this actually takes. If you watch that, videos on my YouTube, I'll post it later, or we can just show it on here. It took over an hour and a half to do everything with very minimal interface from me. I'm getting my credentials, so I put this in all my scripts. Either it's the admin local, which is the administrator at vsphere.local, or my service account domain account. I do this for all of them, so I don't ever have to enter my credentials more than once, right? I'm done. Unless I move to a new box, I don't have that credential file, then I always can just go back and recreate it. So this is my credentials, and then I always keep these in there. I comment them out so I know what modules I'm looking for. In this case, I'm doing everything with VMware. And then I need a host file, because if you're in an environment, maybe your DNS doesn't update as quick, right? It doesn't know that this VM that you created is already put in the domain or whatever. So I have it to where, and I'll show it, where we'll actually pull the IP from the VMware tools. So like right here where it says, the 1.71, we'll pull it and then we'll create a host entry on your host that you're using. In this case, my Windows 10 jump box, so that my DNS is already, so everything's working. That was big. My biggest headache was like, I can't get DNS to work fast enough. I'm like, well, how about if I just work around that, kind of thing. Then my vCenter, this is where we're going to connect to vCenter. And then all my variables. And you're like, okay, that's just crazy. Well, I'm doing it because this script right here is only for my connection server 1. So then I'm just referencing that. I'm creating the name and everything off of that. The static IP address, I do not want to have to go change everything. So I want it all to be the same every time. And the DNS, everything. The local password, I am using not the best practice. Don't do this, but I'm using the same password as I'm logging in with my administrator account. So in my template, it's the same password. So I'm just using this to get that. And then some other stuff that we're going to go through. Right. And then this was the fun part. I wanted to pull from the content library and basically change it on the fly, right? If you go into your vCenter, you're going to have your policies. I'll have to make this full screen so you can kind of see it. But so I have this one policy that syspreps everything, but it won't know what the VM name is because I'm doing it with a script, right? So if I go back into my script now, I am taking the information off of that sysprep, that VM customization specific file, and adding it to say, okay, now use my IP address that I want, everything that I kind of put in a variable, right? And then it goes through and it creates a temporary customization specification here. And then once it's done, it deletes it. So I don't have a whole bunch. I forgot that one line initially. And I kept having a whole bunch every time I create a new one. You don't want to have that messed up, right? So then this is all I've kicked off so far. From the top of the script down, this is all I've kicked off just to build up those 2 VMs. I had to put some timers, some sleep timers. Again, your home lab might be different than my home lab. We know production hopefully is always different than our home labs, in the sense that they might have faster hardware. In my case, it took like 10 minutes for a VM to finally finish the sysprep and everything. So right now, I've got the IP address created as in my host file, my local host file. And now we're going to actually go through this process. this whole next step, if you've never installed the Horizon connection server, you have to do it from a AD account on the local your connection server VM, or in this case, it's going to be my CSO1. Sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. We're going to go ahead and just open it up. So what I'm doing here is I'm making a temp folder because I'm going to copy the cert over. I'm going to copy the installer file over. But I have to create these registry streams because I needed to log in as my account. I needed to use the domain. I need to use the password admin login. And then I'm going to do some other stuff, right? So let's just go ahead and kick this off, and you'll see it working in the background. And there's other things like I hate the Internet Explorer emergency, or not emergency, but that where it blocks it out and you can't open certain web pages and crap like that. I hate that. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this, and we're gonna see it go in the background, hopefully. And Bill, I can't. Well, I'll open the chat window here if there's any questions that come up.
Well, there was one specifically around the credential file. Yeah. So can you talk about just how you create that credential file?
Well, this is booting up. You just saw it did a shutdown. So it already took all the settings and it's rebooting. Oh, wait, no, it's not. It just went to sleep. It'll do it in a second. You'll see that running. But so that credential file. So when you run this right here, it pops up a screen. Now it's rebooting. It'll pop up a screen. You type in your credentials that you want, that you're going to be using, and then it's okay. Now I want to export that to an actual file. So you see here my S scripts, and then the file, right? And that's like an encrypted file. So if I actually try to open that up, we're going to do it. We're going to do this live.
Oh, going off the script.
We're going to do it. Where is that file? I have a whole bunch of stuff you can see me playing around with here. All right, let's see if we can edit it. And Ryan, I saw that. No, I do not have a GitHub. I'm not smart enough on how to figure that stuff out yet. I should. I really should. I just haven't done it yet. So here you go. So you don't see what that password is. You don't see the username or anything. That's that credentials file. You can just see the username right here, but the password is encrypted because that's definitely not the password I use. So now every time, do what?
Is that, or else you type really quick?
Yeah, that's definitely not me. Yep. So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to import that file as that variable that, $ credentials. And by just saving in here, and I just always comment these out unless I need to recreate it. But now I can actually just run this as like a Windows task, or just start the PowerShell script, and it'll do all this for me without me needing to type anything.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great.
I just found that to be the easiest for me. There's other people that use like maybe like a text file or whatever they think go to that. To me, this is the easiest. Okay, so let's verify that I have made that folder. We also just verified that, hey, it automatically logged me in, right? Close that. And I am logged in, as we will see. Joey Ware. That's my my local domain account. And I'm gonna go to the C drive. There's my folder, but there's nothing in it yet. I haven't moved any files, but we'll leave it there. And some of you might be saying, well, are you going to leave that admin, the auto admin login? No. And part of the script, as you will see, is I take that out. I just do it just to start the script, install the file. Once it's installed, it reboots it, it takes it out. I have some sleep timers just so that I can have everything good. But I don't need it now because I've given it more than enough time. So I am actually going to copy these files over. While it's doing that, so the CS file, we'll go back up here. And if I make you dizzy, I apologize. I did it this way so that like the new version that just came out, I could download that executable to the same folder I have everything in, and I could just change this one variable to point to the new file, right? That way I don't have to change my whole script again or anything like that. I just need to change this and point to the new one if I'm going to deploy a whole new with the 2.11.111. Okay. And so now you see I've copied this is my cert. This is my batch folder, file that I'm using to kick off. I don't technically need this, but I did it just to make it easier for me to, like, if this failed, I have the batch here. I can just run this and it'd be the exact same command every time, so that, and you'll see in the CSO2, my replica server, that why I did that. Okay, we have now copied over it. Now I'm going to go ahead and start the install. And in this file, let's just edit it real quick. This is the command line silent install for the Horizon connection server. Matt, this is the not the latest now. This was the 8.3, which would be like the 2106, I believe. 2111 just came out. I plan on upgrading that later. But so you start the actual Horizon connection server install. S means silent. V is like everything you're doing after this. I forgot what the V actually stands for, but so in this case, there's actually a KB article that explains all this. I should probably post it, but 1 means this is the primary. This is the initial admin SID. So this is going to be like the domain admins group. I am installing HTML access. I'm doing the firewall choice 1, which is let the installer create the Windows firewall settings. Deployment general, in this case, general means on-prem. Like if you did AWS or Google, there's other options for that. Don't worry about this password because I will change this later, Bill. So this is the recovery password. I have never needed this in my case, but if you ever have a support ticket and there's a database password, you can log in with that. And then it just asks you for a reminder password. This is not my lab password. I just did it for this one. Sure, David, I will definitely try to share this out. I have my own little personal blog I've been putting this stuff in, but we can do a proper way through the TAM Lab. I will share all my scripts out that way. All right, so there's that. Hey, look, you never saw me click anything. I just kind of looked at the batch file. That was it. And Horizon is, the console's already installed. But you can go back in here and look. It's not done, because if this was done, it would give you the command prompt thing here. So if you actually go in to the task manager, you'll see that the Horizon installer is still going. So the Atom database is installed, the Active Directory lightweight here, and then we scroll down. The Horizon installer is still running, and then we don't see all the VMware services running yet. We will see those shortly. So this is another one of the reasons I decided to record it, so I could cut these times out. But this will take a little bit. So if I don't see any other questions yet, but don't be afraid to ask questions, guys. The next step, this is where I was talking about, I want to remove the auto admin logon and that password. Actually, when you remove, if you change this to 0, it should automatically remove it, but I just went here and verified that it takes that default password out. And then this is where we start working with that certificate. So while this is still installing, if you've never installed this, again, never installed Horizon connection server before, the initial install will create a local certificate or default self-signed certificate. This point, this is just my domain admin or my domain account certificate that gets created for all computers. So that's another step when it's done is you'll see I think 3 or 4 different Horizon type certificates, and we need to change the one that's going to have the friendly name VDM.
So then kind of setting the stage for this whole process. I mean, obviously you had all your variables you need to figure out, but then you had a file server hosting.
Yeah.
Hosting what the batch file, the installer, and your cert. Yeah.
So everything here, and that's a good segue. Thank you. So this is my Windows 10 jump box. This is where I do everything from because it's in the domain. My laptop is not. Makes it easier this way. So it's kind of like acting like my file server. It's acting as some other stuff. So I have my Horizon 8, 2106. I downloaded some of the 2111, which is just the UAG stuff. And I'm going to go into that. And then my folder is my scripts folder. And this is where kind of like it gets dirty because I have a whole bunch of stuff in here.
Sure. I'm envisioning this is something I probably want to do in my lab. And so just thinking about what do I need to go get in order to make this work, as far as the bits and the infrastructure to support it. Okay.
Yeah. Sweet. And in the case, you want a file server that you can copy this to and have backups and all that stuff, because you don't want to have to recreate. I've had to do it too many times now.
Yeah.
And I did try this. If anybody had any questions, like what if someone took this credential file and copied it over and put another machine in reference? It won't work. I did try that when I rebuilt my jump box. I'm guessing I'm not smart enough to understand this, but I'm guessing that encrypted password is like encrypted with this machine. So like a person couldn't take this and then run my script and build something else, with it, in my lab. They would actually have to have on this machine with that credentials file. So you do want to be a little more protective of this if you're doing this in production. However you manage passwords, make sure your security team is okay with that. So I'll throw that out there as a caveat. All right. We're getting closer. I'm seeing some more services coming up, the Horizon stuff, but we're still not done yet. I apologize. My home lab is not the fastest. And if you saw there, I only give it 2 virtual CPUs, I think 8 gig of RAM or something like that. So it's getting the job done, but it's not as quick as I would love. So no more questions yet. Okay. On your certificate. So I will say, I'm using my Microsoft Certificate Authority to handle my certificates. So in this case, you could build your certificate like this. I don't know if I can actually show it yet, but I'll show it when we get there. I have CSO1.imware.net as the common name, and then I have a DNS entry as, I'm sure security would not go this with customers, but it's a wildcard.imware.net. So I did that because if you come in through like the UAGs, or if you do tunneling, stuff like that, you'd get like a password or a cert error every time you went from the connection server to the VDI. So just trying to make this work for me in my home lab. As you see, the install is done, and we can verify this. I'm going to actually launch the console. It may take another second or two to come up. We'll refresh the certs. There's all those certs, right? 1, 2, 3. There's actually 5 or 6. So the one we care about is the CSO1. And if you look, it says VDM. So VDM is the old name that, the Horizon View used to be called before View. If you didn't know the history of that, that's where that comes from. Sure, ask me later. Go away. It's not secure. Yes, we're going to go to the web page because I'm using. That's That's one thing I'd like to ask the developers about. When you launch this, it always goes to localhost, so it's always going to say that. No cert is ever going to say localhost on it. But
good point.
So come on, it's still booting. You can't see I'm dancing over here trying to fill some airtime.
So question then, in your experience installing Horizon, even manually, right? How long does it typically take to get to this point if you're not scripting it out?
It does not take that long if you know what you're doing, right?
Okay.
You're going through those processes like of the script where it says, general, is this the primary? That stuff does not actually take that long. The install is what we just went through. That's the longest part. The problem is if you've never installed it and you just you're like, okay, I'm going to install on this freshly built VM. It's not in the domain. It won't install. It'll actually give you a prompt saying, it has to be a domain account.
Got it.
So then you put the VM in the domain, and then you log in. If you didn't log in as if you logged in as a local account, not the domain account, it's going to tell you the same thing again. It needs to be a domain account, and that's because it has to pull in that SID or whatever, so it knows who you are.
Sure.
Right. So you can do this part right here. So you can log in as an admin. There's no local password for the admin portal. Right. So, and then it knows what domain it is because the connection server is in that domain. All right. Not for this site today. Thank you. Oh, go away. All right. So here we go. Freshly built. There's no license. There's going to be no desktops. Come on. And it locked up on me.
But it's clean.
It's clean, right? It's probably still configuring everything. There it goes. All right. So no desktops, no servers, which would be the connection servers, would be the UAGs, the vCenter, right? Nothing in here. Okay. All right. Let's keep going on my script here. And again, I'm running this all just manually right now. You could just start the script and it does everything for you. So we did the install, the invoke command, restart that batch file. You could just put the command line here if you wanted to. Now I'm gonna remove the auto admin default password. I'm gonna go ahead and copy, or I am actually going to, what does that say there? This is where I'm changing that local VDM. That's this one. We're going to change this one. See if I can make this bigger. So here. And then I'm going to copy the new one over, and then it's going to have the VDM already in it. So let's do 183 to 189. All right, let's see what happens. Look at that. So here's my local Microsoft Certificate Authority, CSO1, VDM. There's the pre-built one, or the one that the Horizon did. I could actually just delete it. I always keep it in there just in case I need to revert back if something is wrong with this cert and you restart the Horizon server services, the connection server services, or restart it and you notice that the page never comes up, the admin portal page, most likely there's something wrong with your cert. If you revert back to the VDM just by the VDM original, delete this one, rename it, rename this one back to VDM, restart the service and it comes up, you know there's something wrong with your cert. And we'll go through the cert real quick. The friendly name, the thumbprint. We will actually need this later on for the UAGs. I have it all in there. So some of this is pre-built in the case like the certs, right? It's harder to do that on the fly with PowerShell. You can do it. I need to learn how to do it. But I already had my cert built. I actually have, and we can show it afterwards, a Horizon web server template with the certificate authority so that it knows to go ahead and put that VDM in there. Okay, we'll go forward. We'll go ahead and just reboot that just to show you, like, when it logs back in, it does not, it doesn't automatically log in. The next thing I want to do is the key. You notice that it didn't have the little Windows watermark because my template had a key in it. So what I'm doing here is I'm changing the key to, in my case, I have like a TechNet subscription or a Visual Studio subscription, and I have a key that I'm using just for that. So we just verified the server did not auto admin log in, so we're clean, we're good. Now I am going to change that key. I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and log in this so I can show you some other stuff here. The key has been changed. Now we're going to do the more Horizon stuff. So we're going to set the key. We're going to create the connection server. And then in this case, I need to comment this out just so I don't accidentally run this. But what I did in my script is if I ran it automatically, it would actually start building the second one out for me too. I've already done that. So we'll go in that in a second. But now let's set that key. So I need to import, I'm pretty sure I already have it, but I just put in here just to make sure, the VMware Vim Automation Horizon View module. So this is how you can do all that fun Horizon stuff. Okay, we're gonna, it may fail because it may not have enough time to boot up and start the services. All right, there you go. So that's how you can tell. It couldn't connect to CSO1 because the services are not running yet. That's why I have the sleep timer in here.
The sleep, I was going to say that. I'm guessing that's why the sleep's there.
Yeah, and when I post this, you'll see like I have this function, start sleep. That's just so that I would have like a prompt. I know what step is going on next. And, you just manually change, what your title is and the status is. So we'll give it another minute here and then we'll try that again.
So you mentioned, you commented out building out the CS2 build. Is that because you already have the VM built, or is that already deployed with more things?
That's because it takes like 40 minutes to do that clone of that template.
Yeah.
So I just kind of wanted to skip by. We'll just switch over this, and it's the exact same things again, but I changed the variables to point to CSO2. I have a different batch script or batch file for the CSO2 because we have to change it from that 1 to like a 2, which means replica.
Got it.
Right. And then I need to change the IP and all that stuff, right? Same credentials, but I got a different license key. Whoops. That one should have been deleted.
Take care of that.
Yep. Got it. Good. We'll blind it out later or whatever. This is the part that, it takes a little bit of time when you reboot. And most of my productions, my customers' production sites, it does not take but maybe less than a minute once the VM is booted up to a Windows screen for the services to start. I am really starving my hosts here for resources. And then I got a different cert file, so that's why I just kind of stopped that for now, because I don't want to, I already did the cloning part.
Got it.
All right, here we go. So Matt, yeah, I am automating the addition of that, if that's what you're referring to, like where I'm adding that in here, and I'll show you that in just a second. All right, again, still no license. All right, let's go add that license again. And right here. All right, there we go. There's no connections. That is like this health list right here is what this little, number of connection or anything like that. So if you were doing some other stuff, you could actually run this anytime and get a health of your environment. The key is in here. So we just refresh this page and we should have a key. While that's loading, that's right here. We're going to do the vCenter next, and we'll do the instant clone edition here. There's some other stuff. This is how we manual pull. And then if you wanted to, I have another script that will create like a new random pool off of a template and then deploy to UIG. So we got the key. Let's launch this script. I will pull that up so you guys can see what that looks like. All right. I am going to get like 2 SSL thumbprint errors. And I need to say, I got most of these scripts that relate to like the API. There's not like a PowerShell way. This is using APIs within PowerShell to add these. Wouter, I'm going to say his last name wrong. He works at Control Up. He's a big V expert. You'll see him on Twitter and stuff like that. These are all stuff that he had on his, and he's been updating. Even as of last night, he's been updating a bunch of stuff for the VMware PowerShell stuff. So obviously, Control being a big partner of theirs, I really do appreciate that he's active in the community as well. I think I actually have that, like his website in here. So it is Horizon vCenter. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sean. So, yep, saw something there I didn't mean to leave in there. But so here it goes through all the stuff that it needs to add that vCenter, right? So what we just ran here to add, you'll see it now, is under servers. Thank you, Matt. Yes, if you look in the chat, you'll see his website and Twitter handle in there. So here's the vCenter. So in this case, now I can add like the instant clone pools. I can start building VMs that are in this vCenter. Before you did this, you couldn't do anything except for add like manual desktops or whatever. So next step, let's create that instant clone domain admin account in here, which we will see right here. Still doing it, and it's done. So refresh this page. There it is. Again, these are all stuff that you just click, next, type in. That you have to kind of figure out, all that stuff. So automating it, I'm taking this out of having to do any clicking. So, and yes, Calvin, yeah, so what I'm using here is the perpetual, these are like the on-prem keys. For customers that are doing Horizon Universal, there's a different process. So keep that in mind. There's a whole, like the Horizon Cloud connector, all that stuff. Would that be in like another TAM Lab video we have to do? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add my jump box as a manual desktop here. And let's see if that's script. VDI manual. Should be good. So my domain name, the CS01, the vCenter, these are just the variables. This is where I need this is the actual Windows VM name, or the virtual center VM name. This is the pool we're creating. This is the description. So there's the pool, the description. Well, you'll see it when you actually open it up. So we connect into the Horizon server, and then the new HV pool. This is the command line to add the manual desktop, and then this is the entitlements. So when you go through and you're adding a desktop, you have the whole process of choosing the VM, what kind of pool it is, then the VM, and the whole settings you need. A manual pool is a little less than like an instant clone pool. You don't have the extra case of how many VMs you need, stuff like that, right? All this is the default options. You could go through and change all that if you need to. And then the last option, it'll say, do you want to add entitlement? So that's why we have this here. This could be a group, and then you could add a AD group. In my case, it's just me, so I just added my user account. Let's go to the next one. UAGs. So let me kick off this one real quick, which is the CSO2, the replica server. So I already got that. We just need to run. Already connected, but we'll just verify that. Okay. In my process of playing around with this, I had some failed replica installs. So I created this little line here to go through, and it connects back to the primary connection server, which is the CSO1, and it goes through the command line process of removing the replica, which is CSO2, right? So if you had like an install, it failed, or you didn't properly remove it, the Atom database still sees that. As a replication partner, it sees it as a connection server. So when you go to install it as the same name the second time, the install will fail. If you go through the actual process of clicking, next, it will actually give you an error message that says like the database, this is in there or something. It will say, give you an error. When you're doing these automation stuff, you won't see stuff like that. There's not a log file that I have found that will tell you like why this failed, because it didn't actually install. There's no path for it. All that stuff gets cleaned up. So that's what this is. I know this is a clean environment. It's not there. I don't need to do any of this stuff because we already ran it. So we'll run the host file, and let's go ahead and do all this stuff right now. Key. See if I got some sleep stuff in here I don't need. Yeah, we'll do run it. So I've created the host entry, created the default password. It should reboot in a second. All right. In chat, Sean just said, he doesn't believe the Cloud Connector has API that you can automate against it yet. Sean, I agree with you. I don't think it is. I can't wait for it though. We have gotten better in the Horizon, the suite of getting this out. I know a lot of this stuff. We've had a bunch of, PSO residents and everything kind of create this. If you look at the modules, it's really great. It tells you everything, and it has people who created these. It's awesome seeing the community inside those PowerShell modules. So, all right, waiting for that to reboot. While that's doing that, I'm all over the place. I know, I'm sorry. We're almost at 10:50 here, my time. So I have my two UAGs. Let's connect to these real quick. The 9443 is the, if you guys didn't know, that's the kind of like the interface, the admin interface. So everything is here. My connection servers that it connects to, like I told you, we need that thumbprint. There we go. This is my internal one. If you go through the process here, you will get to select, this is internal gateway. So all this setting is stuff for the Horizon. Actually, let me go into here. Export the UIG settings. So I actually did all this already, the JSON, the INI file. And when you go through deploying a UIG, it's here. I'm not doing anything outside the ordinary except for I have my variables again. These are the actual, when you download the UIG, it has a PowerShell, like a zip file. So you need that because that's the UIG PowerShell file. And then this UIG settings is what I hear, right? The INI. So it will take everything that's in here except for the cert. You can actually put the cert in there. I'm not having the greatest experience with that myself. It's my home lab, I know for sure. I reached out internally to one of the engineers of this, the UAGs. If you guys don't know Mark Benson, why did it get me for that? He's been helping me out a lot. So we'll go through this process. Where in my file? Let's just cancel it and see where it's at. I have
57.
Yep, and you can see I don't have the. No, it's not that one. It's the Windows key. So down, down, down. Did I spell it wrong? It's worked this whole time. Now it just, well, let's see.
Yeah, Troy's saying you might not have had the whole line selected when you hit the
That would
run.
totally be me. Yeah, does that count? Let's do it again. Troy, this is why we do stuff live, right?
Hey,
Yep, that was probably the case, Troy. You're so smart. I didn't. Look right there. Yeah, I didn't. I left out the rest of that. Okay. And this is where I'm not having the best experience. Sean, you might hit me. I might hit you up later about this if you mess with this. But when I start the Replica install, it's not doing it. So I start off the batch script, which in his case, you see it's type 2, which means Replica. And then the Atom primary, you point to the primary server, which in my case is CSO1. The install kicks off, but then it doesn't actually fail. So here we go, Horizon Installation Launcher. I mean, it fails at some point, but it doesn't tell me why. But if I run it locally, it runs fine. So we'll give it a minute. See, it's gone. It failed. But now if I just go, this is why I kind of created the batch file so that if I just did the invoke command with the command line prompt here, well, then I'd have to like copy and paste or whatever, right? So I'm just kind of lazy in troubleshooting. So this is what I launched. I'm going to launch it this way. Okay. Yes. And watch, it's going to work. I don't know why. I need to figure this out. It's bugging me. This is the only thing in my process so far that they're not automated this completely. Matt, my UAG scripted to be HA pair? No, because I have one for internal, one for external. So I would not have, in my case, I don't need an HA pair in my home lab. And then also, then you'd have to like do a whole QSing if you're going to upgrade it or take them down. In production, yes, you definitely need that. I agree that it is a very useful thing to do. So as you see, it's installed. Not for sure why. I ran the exact same thing here as I just launched manually. I don't know if it's a replica issue, like a replica install issue or what, but I wanted to get that on the video just so everyone knows that, you know, I'm not lying. This is something that needs to be fixed. It might just be my home lab again. Okay. That's still going to take some time to boot up. Let's move forward a little more. Deploying UAG. So if you have not gone through the process of this, it's very simple. Actually, let me just go through that video because it's actually, we'll just do it real quick. In this case, let's just power these off and delete them. I'm going to delete them, so I don't care if they're powered off ugly. Not suspend. Come on. I hope y'all's home environment is, our home lab environment is better than mine. There we go. Okay, that is. Jeremy, I could, yeah. That would be a great thing to get in touch with the PSO lab team. I would, you know, having a good environment to actually test all this stuff out. I mean, my home lab is great for, you know, doing stuff I want to do, kind of play around with, hands-on. But if this was something you're going to work with your customers, obviously, hopefully they have a lab that you can work with them as well before they do anything in production. And also, I think the caveat is anything we do here, please remember that this is not sanctioned by VMware support or anything like this. This is us working as a way to try to help solve a problem. If you had a customer do this and they ran to support and said, hey, we learned this on a TAM Lab, Joey Ware's PowerShell session, they're going to look at you and go, I don't know who that is. So just remember that in all future cases with your customers. All right, so I'm going to launch the script. I'm going to deploy the external UIG, and in this case, my external UIG is the settings INI, and then the internal settings INI that I exported out. I'm actually going to do something a little different here. I'm going to take this one out and put this one in. In the UAG, they are so easy to upgrade. Really, you think of the UAGs as something you can just throw away if you have an issue. If you had any customers that ran into issues with UAGs, a lot of times they just tell them to redeploy. It's easier to see where the problem is during like a new environment, clean environment, import everything, works great. And then if you have like an issue later on, delete it, redeploy it. I've had several times that global support has told my customer that or revert back to a backup if they do that. I don't know as many customers that back up, like if they have an HA pair, they might just back up one because then they could just restore the INI file if they need to. So we're gonna launch this. I'm gonna build one on the old and then one on the new. So the old in the UIG settings, I am pointing to the OVA file right here. Again, this is 2106. In the what I renamed here, the UAG INT settings 2111. This is the 211 file, but I'm pointing to the same config. That's all I changed. And if you look at this is like the standard INI file you get when you deploy UAGs, you get actually a whole bunch of them. Let me just pull that up real quick. So when you download the PowerShell UAG scripts, there's the UAG deploy script. This is the module script for it. And then like Azure, EC2, the Google Cloud environment, I guess Hyper-V, what is that? But the basic I9, the advanced, each one of these has something different. Like this may be just the total basic as a UAG, nothing in it. The advanced will like have Horizon stuff in it, secure radius, all that, right? So in this case, I'm kind of doing advanced, and I'm doing one NIC. So if we go back in here, when you say one NIC, well, what does that mean, Joey, right? Where, I think it's at the top. So one NIC right here. Yep. Yeah. One NIC, I'm doing a thin data store, or thin disk data store from vSAN. So in this case, if you had multiple NICs, one could be, in this case, the back-end network, the internet-facing network, and then the management network. I don't need that. They're all the same, so I just put them all to VMS, and then we're good to go. All right, let's kick that off real quick. UAG deploy. Bill, sorry if we go a little over.
Oh, no problem.
And in this case too, Mark Benson actually helped me with this yesterday. When you deploy this in this configs, it tells you, or the KBR or whatever, it tells you this is how you deploy, but then you get asked for what is the root password, the user password, go back, and then no, this is the CEIP, Customer Experience Improvement Program, I think. So in my case, this home lab, they're not going to fix my environment unless they give me new hardware, right? So I'm saying no here. So this is how you would do it, which I really appreciate him. I told him yesterday that helps me a lot because I was trying to mess up the PowerShell module that was already built. Like, don't do that. Just do this. I'm like, oh, that makes total sense. So and here's that UAG password. So if I tried this, like if I did the credentials.password, it's still encrypted. So you have to go through this whole process of, convert from secure or whatever, trying to get it down because this is, it's a little different, right? But if you kind of go this path with that credentials file, then you kind of like, I'm not going to run this because you'll see what my password is. So just give you a heads up. So we're going through the process. If I go back over here, you see it's deploying. I like this because it actually tells you the disk progress. When I'm cloning my templates from the beginning, it just sits there like 36, 38%, and then it's done after like 5 minutes or 20 minutes, depending on how bad my environment is that day. So I really do like this, like right here, right? 35%. It's updating here what's there. Pretty cool. Sean, no, I do not have a GitHub repo yet. I should. So I can get off my WordPress site that I've had for 7 years.
So then it's going to do this. This is deploying the first one.
Yep.
And there'll be a second one that comes after it.
The second one is my internal UAG, but you're going to see that it's going to be even though it says 2106 here, that INI file, this UAG internal settings INI. What did I do? Oh, okay. I commented out the wrong thing. So I'll stop it when it does this one and we'll run this one instead.
But in theory, you're deploying this here and then you're immediately configuring it as well. So
In theory, yes. Since you have all the Horizon stuff in here, like everything I've set up before, now if you know what you're doing, again, the documents for the UAGs will tell you, you need to set the what is it, the external URL, stuff like this, the destination. If you know what you're doing, you can create this by hand. What I did is I created it one time, set up the UAGs, and then I exported it. And then, like down here, I exported the INI, so I don't have to do that ever again. It's done. Sean, you crack me up. Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about the GitHub and everything like that. I'm just now getting to PowerShell. What is this, like, 6-7 years ago? PowerShell was real big. I am thankful for VMware as a whole, getting everybody to this point where they feel comfortable to do this. I used to be one of those point and click guys where I had to have my point and click. I needed the interface. Getting tired of rebuilding my home lab over and over, I could just launch this and ready to go. So Sean Massey says two things about the PowerShell deployment method. One, if you're using Radius auth with Horizon, you'll be prompted for the Radius shared secret. There's no way to automate that. And two, works with PowerShell core except if you're using PFX files. So that may be some of the issues I'm having with the certificates. Oh yeah, see. If you've never done PowerShell before, you have to unblock the files. I actually had a script that did this, so actually let's stop that because I don't want that one right now. Let's go in here and cancel it. So we'll give it a minute. That was the external one. Yep. Now it's going to take a second to boot up. So while it's doing that, we'll kick off the new one here. Internal. So if you have a customer that's going through this, they can just easily, like I said, export the INI file and then deploy a new UAG that's on the new version. And all they need to do is change where it points to the OVA file. Hopefully that makes sense for everybody. I am still pointing to the, because I clicked the wrong one, this one. All you gotta do is change that, the path and the where the file is. We'll kick that one off while we wait for this one to come up. There you go. Connections not private. There we go. If you run into this too, I think this is a browser issue related to the cert. You need to type in the IP address instead. There we go. Using the same password I used for the UAG pass. Sean, this is one of the things I've been trying to, if you saw my post internally, even though everything is in the INI file, it's not coming over. And I'm pretty sure it's just my home lab environment. I've waited, gave enough time before. So what, in this case, for you and your customers, if they run into an issue like this, they have that JSON file instead. They can easily go back into here, import settings. We're going to browse. This is the external one. And then I need to go. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's an error in my INI file. So we're going to go to, where did I save those to? Hang on. Scripts, INI, here. So this is my external. We're going to import. Now if I turn this on, we're going to start seeing this go up. All my settings are there. So while it may not be completely automated in this TAM Lab session, it should be. The INI file should really pull everything in. But this way we kind of help you troubleshoot a way to, do it. It takes a second to come up here and we'll have green little buckets everywhere, bubbles. Any questions anybody has? Don't be afraid to ask. There we go. All green. And then I am going to take my cert now and do it for both the admin interface and the internet interface. I have both PFX and PIM. I'm playing with trying to figure out the automation issue with this one, but let's go ahead and just import those certs. I need the RSA key here for this one, and then the actual certificate. Looks good. I can close that out, open it back up. External. And look at that, we got a good certificate now. And it's my local one. Almost done with the internal one. I'm going to show you. It's going to be, this is 2106. When that one gets done, we will be at 2111, I guess is how we're going to say it. And then after this is done, we're pretty much wrapped up. Maybe after I can get some help on maybe what's wrong with my INI files, we can do a follow-up on this, on UAG's deployment and configuration. I've had customers ask, they want to know more about it. Like I still had customers that were still using security servers in the old version, but now they're going to Horizon 8 or 2021X, or whatever you want to call it. They're moving to UIGs. So. Come on, finish. So one of the things, the INI file is working. The point that it's taken my my different IPs, because this is like DHCP pulls whatever, but the INI file actually has the IP I want, the 1.202. So give this a minute to boot up. And it should be pulling 1.202 instead. Let's move that over here just a sec. Yep, see, there you go. So the INI file is working enough to pull in this information. Just got to figure out why it's not pulling my Horizon stuff. Let's go to it. I'm assuming I'm going to have the same Chrome support problem. So let's just connect to it this way. Still not up yet. Thanks everyone that's telling me how, in the chat. Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll wrap this up in just a second after I finish this one. And don't be afraid to hit us up on the TAM Lab if you have anything you'd like to present. If you have any questions or anything like that. There we go, 2111. Thank you guys. I'm just going to finish this out, import that JSON file and the cert, and we're good to go. Let's do the cert. And you notice I have the same cert because it's like a wildcard cert for this environment. Or it's like view, it's my external common name. Cert. There we go. Close that out, open it back up, and we're good. There we go, clean cert. 2111. There's my horizon. So there we go. This script helps me out a lot because I do tear down my home lab, and a lot of times I'll just let it run, go grab lunch, come back, and then I just got to do the little stuff right now that I've got to fix to automate. Appreciate everyone joining. We'll hit you next time on the TAM Lab.